Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Silent Punt Podcast with your host, Travis and Henny. If you're watching on YouTube, our eyes might look a little not open just yet. We're filming this a little early in the morning this week. How you doing, buddy?
Good so far.
2 weeks in a row. You're
Uh,
making a habit of this all of a sudden.
all right, yeah, I'm back on schedule.
All right, we each have a sticker and each have a gasser for the Thanksgiving theme. My sticker is pumpkin pie and homemade whipped cream.
Homemade whipped cream is very good. I didn't think of that one. My sticker is sweet potatoes. Anything sweet potatoes is great. It's almost like a full turkey. Like no one makes a full turkey other than Thanksgiving, but also underutilized sweet potatoes. Very high in lots of nutrients that you need in your body, and a little bit lower glycemic index than the good old white potato.
Sweet potato fries, yay or nay?
Yeah, every time I see that, if it's offered, I get it.
Ugh, I don't like them as French fries.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to put on them. It's ketchup's not quite right, but
No.
I don't know what else to put on. I just usually
Kind of aioli is good on fries,
there you go.
mayonnaise. My gasser goes to turkey.
Oh, you're one of those people?
It just doesn't taste like anything.
It doesn't taste like it. You're not doing the turkey right. Did you brine it? Did
Oh God, no,
you
I did not brine
did you spatchcock it and smoke it?
it. You just made that word up.
I did not make that word up. Look at everybody else.
Spatchcocking is a thing.
Okay, look it up. If you, yeah, I could make you a turkey that you would want to have the following week.
I say that about Brussels sprouts to everybody. Everybody that doesn't like Brussels sprouts, I'm like, you have my Brussels sprouts. You'll like 'em.
Yeah, you're just not doing it right. So that's fine.
We
So,
realized, my family and I and my in-laws a few years ago that of the five of us, none of us like turkey. So we're like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we having turkey?
my in-laws, they make a turkey, but um, a lot of times nobody eats it, and then they just make a fillet.
Yeah. We made homemade pizza last year.
I think that's a little offensive. Let's let's move on.
It's a little offensive to the Pilgrims and the Native Americans.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, Reminder, everybody rate, review, subscribe us. I will say I've tried to do that more on other podcasts that I listen to, and Spotify in particular does not make it very easy to rate anything.
Oh,
I had
really?
to like look several times. Yeah, it was kind of weird. Um, and also reminder at the end, we're going to do our comment of the week. Had a couple good ones last week. But topic number one, the Dick Cheney funeral happened last week. Did
So
you see any of the news coverage of that?
the only reason I heard about it, I was listening to John Oliver's show, and they had a call-in radio show where people said, "Hey, we want to honor the life of Dick Cheney," and not everybody, but everybody that they put on the air just got out and ripped Dick Cheney for being a terrible human being. So I did not see the funeral, so enlighten me.
Well, I had someone that I read on Substack wrote about it because they were there, and then I saw a couple of news reports, and I was a little bit torn because, uh, firstly, it seemed like both sides of the aisle came together and were respectful, politician-wise, of him at the thing, and people got along, which I appreciate. But then also something we've talked about in the past is how there is this reimagining of someone's life once they die. Um, and there was a little bit of that going on as well. I'm sure he was a better person than maybe I think he was. Um, but when I immediately think of that name, positive things don't come to my mind.
Yeah, and I don't know who really does. I can't point to anything amazing, any like incredible piece of legislation or anything that he really pushed for that was instrumental. But you could say that of a lot of politicians, I guess. But yeah, I don't nothing burger. I have nothing for Dick Cheney.
And he also, I don't know how his relationship wound up eventually with his daughter, but his daughter, I believe, is gay, and I believe he was really against gayness and whatnot until came out or whatever. And eventually they, I think, were okay with each other, and eventually he changed his stance on gayness, I believe. Um, but it's just that thing where like people are not okay with something until it's totally thrust upon them in their life. They don't have the vision to be able to see that something could be okay without it totally being in their life. I don't love when that happens either.
Yeah, agreed.
Um, all right, topic number two, the ACT test. You've had some kids that have taken it, kids that are going to take it. Well, you are probably more SAT land.
Yeah, the only reason my oldest kid took ACTs is because she didn't do well in the SAT, and she learned from someone that that could be a way to help her out with colleges. She got a coach for it that was really great, helped her out, and she got a really good score on it. I took it way back in the 1900s. I can't remember what I got. I think it was like 23 or 24. It wasn't a great score, but it wasn't terrible either. My SATs were not great at that time, 1080 or 90 or something. So I'm not a great test taker, but it was good enough to get me into school.
Well, we're going through it, the prep stuff now, and I was talking to my wife last week, and she said one of the things that the lady that's helping Ava with, which again, like what you said with your daughter, we're paying this lady to coach her and help her, which not everybody can afford to do. One of the things that this lady said that she could do for us and that anybody can do is, Ava took it in the fall, I don't know, September or October. You can purchase from the ACT people that test with all the questions she took and all the answers that she took to use to study.
Really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it's where was I? Oh, I'll send you a podcast about education in general and how education has kind of changed since COVID. Um, they took the applicants or people that got into the State University of San Diego, I think it was, which for those that don't know, California has a really good state school system, kind of similar to New York. They've invested a lot in their state school system, so they're good schools in general, and the math requirements, and majority of them are in remedial math. More than 50% that got accepted into this college could not answer this question properly. So I'll ask you, Henry, I'm going to put you
Yeah.
on the spot here. Don't
I
get
was
nervous.
told there would be no math.
Yeah, don't get nervous. Please round this number to the closest hundred. 356,518.
300 and whatever, 1,500.
Right. More than 50% of kids that were accepted into that school could not get that question right.
Whew,
So
rough.
there's issues with economic status and ability to get coaching for your kids to try to take these tests. So there's lots of different weird things that are going on with academia that I guess have kind of always been there. But with the point is they're lowering the standards. Another that same podcast spoke of there's way more A's given out at Harvard now than there ever were.
Mm.
There's tons of people that just kind of get pushed through the system, and it's more important to kind of get this grading thing. So that becomes more of a subjective thing. But the thing that you can always kind of fall back on is this standardized test thing. It's like, okay, well, everybody takes this test, but the same people aren't taking that test. There's people that just kind of roll in there that don't, have the family structure to understand the importance of that test and how that gets you into school. There's some people that can pay for coaching for that. So it's an interesting kind of topic. I'll send you the podcast. It was really good.
Yeah, we always get crapped on as Americans for standardized tests and people in Asia being much better than us and other countries. But you hit on something like everybody in second grade in the country takes those. Everybody in seventh grade takes those. And I was a decent student, but anytime they told me, all right, we're taking this thing, but it's not for your grade. Well, I don't care. I'm just filling out dots and why would I work hard at this?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. All right, topic three, validation. We talked a little bit about that in the newsletter this week.
Yeah. I read your piece.
Appreciate it, bro. Um, is yours mostly internal or external, do you think?
Uh, I would say when I was younger, it's definitely external. And then as you get older, it kind of moves to internal. I think that's pretty common though for most people. In the beginning of your career, you're kind of, trying to impress other people, whether you're at a job or you have your own business or something like that. The validation that the example that I work with, so I work with private practices that have one location, five locations, 20 locations. That seems to be a big number. Like when you go to a conference, like, hey, how's it going? No, I'm Travis. Oh, how many locations do you have? Like that's one way to validate it. I know tons of people that have one or two locations that are way more profitable than people that have 10 or 12. So it's kind of like a measuring stick that doesn't end up helping you out, which isn't surprising. Like most people can point out like, hey, this isn't helping you out. Really what the most important thing.
It's how big is your you know what figure?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I would like to think that it's more internal, but humans are humans. There's a little bit of external validation that go on as well. I try to catch myself in external validation and move as far away from that as I can, but sometimes hard.
When do you feel like you kind of jumped the shark from one to the other? You said maybe when I was younger it was one way, and
Probably when I learned about finances and how a business is run. And I know an amazing practice owner in Illinois, and he had one location that finally opened up to two, and he was extremely profitable and efficient at one. And that would be for most people, it's like, oh, he's only got one location. He probably doesn't know what he's doing, which was kind of the complete opposite. And so that was maybe 8 or 10 years ago, something like that.
well, how did opening the second go?
It went okay, but it didn't drastically improve his quality of life. And he kind of figured out, I'm doing pretty good with what I'm doing. I got
How
to
did he
stop
do more?
comparing myself to other people that which might not be doing as well as me that have five locations.
Right. All right. Topic four, Scott Galloway. Do you know that guy at all?
I do. I started. I don't know when he became popular. He said some like crazy controversial stuff. I like just after the pandemic. He's an NYU professor, I believe. He's a professor somewhere, but really more known for
Yeah.
his businesses. He kind of has that as like a cool thing to put on his CV, I guess. But does enjoy teaching. I like his podcast. I like a majority of his views. In general, he's an entertaining person to listen to.
Yeah, I would say the same. I agree with most of what he says most of the time. A lot of the financial stuff is just purely educational to me because know nothing about the stock market or anything like that. Um, but he is annoying to me in two ways. Number one, he's one of those guys that is our age or a little bit older that first time he opens his mouth, he has to tell you about this cool thing that he did or that he was in. Like I listened to a little bit of a podcast yesterday, and the first thing he did was talk about all the cool clubs that he was at this past weekend in Los Angeles, in LA. It's like, how old are you? Like, who cares? And then also, he gives out a lot of advice about relationships and young men. Um, Again, I kind of agree with a lot of the things he says. However, how he got there, if you've read anything about him, he was an a-hole, and he'll say, I was an a-hole in all of these relationships. I would guess he's maybe 60 now. Um, and he's like, I had to go through all this stuff and make all this money and do all these things. Um, but now I'm not. And I'm like, well, I listened to you. I think you kind of still are. So, and you didn't do any of these things that you're saying all these young men should do, like when you were that age. Why should I listen to you now?
So you probably don't know a ton about the world of like venture capital or like Y Combinator or founding companies. But one thing that those companies look for, they have a ton of money, they got to invest it in something. You can make a higher return on a business that grows or a sector that grows than you can on the stock market. Stock market is more reliable, but there's bigger upside in these investing money in an entrepreneur that can kind of grow something. Also, huge downside. A lot of those companies, like you lose all your money. But one thing they look for is previous failure. So they don't want somebody who it's their first company. They've never, this sounds crazy, but they've never had a crappy idea and run into the ground and lost all their money because they don't know, they don't have like arrows in their backs, is what they say. It's like, you don't,
That's a good thing.
yeah, that's a good thing because
Right.
you want that. So I would turn that back on the Scott Galloway stuff. It's like, well, if you have someone who's, always been great at relationships, yes, there's certain principles that you can learn from that. But I'm sure as a football coach, you would say you always learned more from your losses than you did from your wins, didn't you?
I did, but I think there's a difference between running a company or a football team and being a
Good
good,
person.
nice human being,
I think that's a good point. Yeah, I agree with you there.
I
So,
would hope when you leave your parents' house, if you're lucky enough to have parents when you're 18, that you're fully formed enough to, have good relationships. I know that's not always the case, but I think you're pretty darn well set.
yeah. Um, yeah, I see your point. I'm trying to make a point about um, having the experience of doing things badly. You can learn more, but in the form of personal relationships, yeah, I think that's also kind of his shtick. He's kind of like
Right.
a jerk, but does do a lot of good things. So yeah, he's an interesting character.
Well, he gets away with saying some things that maybe other people couldn't say because he spends 2 or 3 minutes before saying the thing that might be questionable, um, being really humble and saying, "Well, I'm terrible at this," or "I did this," or "I did that," but then this. Um, so if you ever listen to him, any of our listeners, see if you notice that,
Yeah,
because
let
again,
us know what you think. Put in the comments.
always me. What's that?
I said, let us know what you think. Put in the comments.
Speaking of the comments, well, actually, before we get to that, we're working on, last week we talked about statins. We're working on putting together an episode for that. So we said we would talk about it this week, but we're punting on it right now. Um, Comment of the week last week comes from Joshua in, of all places, Austria.
Mm,
He's an expat living there. He said, we were talking about dietary stuff last week, and he said a couple of years ago, the US stopped saying dietary cholesterol was bad. Europe never said it was bad. I like the rule. I also like the rule if your grandparents wouldn't recognize it as food, don't eat it.
that's good. It was always on the counter and next to my great aunt, who was my grandfather's sister, and she lived in the farmhouse up the road where our farm was. We were a quarter of a mile in a house down the road, and she lived to be 99. And you wouldn't immediately look at what she put on the table as healthy, but there was always a can of lard sitting
Mm.
on the counter, which would appall most people. But yeah, there's that's kind of going to like if your grandparents didn't recognize it as food, it probably isn't, which is that's a great way of thinking about it. So
She used lard probably like as butter or olive
yeah,
oil, like to cook
you're
with.
gonna cook something in a cast iron
Yeah.
pan, and you just throw that in there. Yep. And people would say,
Um,
"Oh, butter is terrible too. It's just a dairy product, higher fat." There's things that we look at as we study aging. So we've talked about this a ton. But you know what? It was almost universal with people that live over 100. They have high cholesterol. Cholesterol is one of the most important things in your body. It surrounds, it's part of every cell membrane. So, people that have lower cholesterol as they age, often associated with increased rates of dementia and neurogenic diseases. So, I'm never giving out dietary advice on this podcast because of things we've talked about in terms of how difficult it is to study nutrition. But yeah, cholesterol is not the enemy.
uh, the one thing I don't think you would want to eat that my grandparents ate and called food was scrapple.
Scrapple is amazing.
Oh,
Really? Come
Explain to
on.
people what scrapple is. You're closer to Philly now than I am.
It's the breakfast hot dog.
That's a decent way to put it.
Yeah, whatever's left over when you're butchering an animal, just kind of mash it together and then you put it in a cube.
Lips and a-holes, as my papa used to call it.
Yeah, exactly. So if anybody has had Scrapple, which it's I've only ever seen it in like a 50-mile radius of where I live, maybe out to Harrisburg, in Lancaster. I've seen it there. I've seen it up in the Poconos. I've never seen it like in Philly area. But yeah, it's the only place I know it exists. Maybe I can prove that by no one being able to say what Scrapple is in the comments.
This is how I know it's bad is because I've eaten breakfast all over the country at different parts of my life, and sometimes you'll see even here in Wisconsin grits as a special in a breakfast restaurant. I have, as you said, never seen scrapple in any other restaurant in any other part of the country.
Is it Pennsylvania Dutch? Is that where it comes? I'm gonna have to go
I
ask
don't know where it comes
I'm
from.
going into the clinic today. I'll find the oldest person in there and ask them, and they'll know.
Okay. Joshua also liked Minnesota accents. Remember that movie Fargo back in the day? Oh, don't you know?
So my aunt is from Minnesota. My mom grew up on a pig farm in Iowa, and my mom moved to New York with the guy that she met in college, which is my dad. And my aunt moved to Minnesota, which is pretty common to move there from Iowa. And she used to leave voice messages on my phone in college. And in the 1900s, when Henny and I went to school, there was a corded phone and there was an answering machine. So my roommates got the biggest kick out of when my aunt would call. Just think of the thickest Minnesota accent you've ever heard and like dial it up a little bit. So they would listen to it over and over again and just die laughing like at her accent. She has an amazing accent.
Speaking of answering machines, I am watching, I'm only 2 episodes into Pluribus. Have you heard of that show?
Yes, it's might be the thing that gets me to get Apple TV, but continue.
Well, it's either the first or second episode. The protagonist, woman in it, um, is having a phone conversation with someone, hangs up. They call back, and it was on a landline, cord-free, cordless landline, but she's got an answering machine in the back that like key clicks on, and you can hear the person leaving a message. Now, very clearly, it's like a plot device because the whoever's making the show wants you to hear what that message is. But I immediately thought, like, who has one of those anymore?
So this show is set in modern times.
Yeah.
Cool people do. That's who has a landline anymore. Do your parents have a
Yeah.
landline?
My parents do, yes. That's the only phone number I have in my head anymore is my parents' landline.
My mom somehow she got rid of a landline. She somehow got her landline number to move to her cell phone number. It's the only person in human history I've
Wow.
heard be able to do that. So,
That's amazing.
but my
Our landline growing up, the last 4 digits was 666 something. And my mother had a devil of a time, see what I did there,
oh,
with the phone company, but eventually got it changed so that we didn't have to have 666 in the number.
there you go. Good job, Joyce.
All right, don't forget, rate, review, subscribe. Anything else for the good of the cause, Mr.
Sweet.
Robin?
I had some comment requests, so I hope people listen and actually put your comments. You could be comment of the week if you comment. So
Yeah, we might have to like start having some giveaways.
maybe the giveaway I will get Scrapple from my local grocery store and freeze it and send it to you so you can try
Yeah,
Scrapple.
I'm sure that ships really well.
I mean, it's like shelf stable. You could put it anywhere. It's not it
It's
never
not going
expires.
anywhere for years.
No,
Maybe
exactly.
we'll get him one of those cool Robins t-shirts that you're wearing
We have lots
today.
of those. We have lots of Robins t-shirts. We did a Silent Punt t-shirt.
I'm down. You can create it
All right, I'll put that on my list.
on your to-do list.
Yeah,
All right, we're taking an E, dude.
hit the showers.